We're learning the Dvar Malchut. This is from a speech given by the Lubavitcher Rebbe in Chanuka 34 years ago, 1991, Tafshin Nun Aleph Beit. Okay, so 33 years ago. So the Rebbe is explaining what Chanuka is, and he says that Chanuka, interestingly enough, is the only holiday in Judaism that isn't accompanied by meals, food. You don't have to eat meals. All the other holidays is a commandment to eat meals, all on Shabbat, Sukkot, Shavuot, etc. Even Rosh Hashanah for sure. I mean, Yom Kippur, of course not, because it's forbidden to eat. But it is, even Purim. Purim is a big thing to make a big meal on Purim. Chanukah is not. Chanukah, you want to make meals, it's a good thing to make meals. You can make meals, and it says if you say words of Torah and you sing songs of Torah, then it becomes like a Sudat mitzvah, but that you can make any time of the year. Any time of the year. If you want to sit together and make a meal and say words of Torah, then it becomes like a Sudat mitzvah. So Chanukah is special, doesn't have any meals. So there is why. This is because the main thing of Chanukah is oil. And oil is not a food. Oil is not on its own a type of food. Food. Well, if you add it with something else, then it enhances your food. But people don't eat oil or drink oil for nourishment. Right? Maybe they do it for medicinal purposes, but generally speaking, not oil. But on the other hand, oil, as far as foods go, is the most spiritual of all. Indicates the most spiritual level of all foods. So it's the same thing like the Torah. Sometimes the Torah is called bread, water. Sometimes the Torah is called wine. Right? The revealed Torah is like bread and water. That's like the laws of the Torah and the things of the Torah, the day-to-day Jewish life. Wine of the Torah is the secrets of the Torah, the mysteries of the Torah. That enhances the wine, the bread and the water of the Torah, the normal day-to-day mundane legal parts of the Torah are enhanced by wine, the secrets of the Torah. But oil, that's the secrets of the secrets. Razin the razin, he says. That's razin the razin, that's secrets of secrets. Razin the shalomayla, this is above razin normal secrets. The wine of the Torah. And we'll see what the secrets of secrets is. We'll see what it means. How much more so it's above the water and the bread of the Torah. And this is especially the holiday of Chanuka. Now, the Rebbe went back, he's saying one of the reasons is what happened in Chanuka that's meaningful to us nowadays. The Greeks were a very cultured people, even though that they were also, conquerors and ruthless and murderers and things like that, and they were big warriors in those days. But nevertheless, they were very. They had one aspect of their country, their race, whatever you want to call it, was culture. They had culture. They had the greatest philosophers back then, and they had also mathematicians with mathematics and geometry and all this stuff. So to this day, we're still, utilizing their thoughts and their ideas, and there's Greeks. So, and that was their big thing against the Jews. That was the big thing against the Jews. The big thing against the Jews was that they didn't so much want to conquer the Jews physically, like they did the whole rest of the world, because they realized that the Jews are not essentially a physical people. The fact that the Jews are physical people in the world is because they have some sort of a message, some sort of a spiritual lesson inside of them. The Jews are vehicles for a higher purpose in the world. And that the Greeks didn't want. They conquered the whole world physically, but they realized that conquering the Jews physically is not really what they wanted. In a way, conquering the Jews, that was the ultimate conquering that they did. The other nations that they conquered, the other nations had no connection with their philosophy or something like that. They accepted the philosophy, Greek philosophy. They didn't have any philosophy of their own. They didn't have any particular philosophies of their own, life philosophies. The Jews had a life philosophy of their own, which was in direct opposition to that of the Greeks. The Greek philosophy, as of all philosophies in the world, are how can I explain in the world in a way that settles my mind, comforts me, comforts my mind. Philosophy, generally speaking, does not bring to action. Usually it doesn't. That already gets into the economic philosophy and things like the communism and stuff like that. But generally speaking, philosophy is just sort of explaining things in general. Jewish philosophy is not that way. Jewish philosophy brings to doing what God wants, and because God wants, and that the Greeks were against. That's the Greeks were against. So when they conquered the rest of the world, they conquered everything. They conquered physically. But when they got to the Jews, now they could get their essence against the Jews' essence. The essence of Greek was their philosophy, and the essence of the Jews was Jewish philosophy. And philosophy might not be the right word, but just the ideals, the Greek ideals and Jewish ideals. Like, Greek ideals were that man is the measure of all things, and that everybody decides what you want to do. And if you go according to the Greek way of thinking, then that'll benefit you personally, and you'll benefit from us. So it's worth your while that we should rule over you. And it worked pretty much in the rest of the world. But by the Jews, it didn't work. Why? Because the Jews, in fact, they have what's called oil, and oil floats above everything else. The other nations, they had their Bibles, they even had their mysteries, right? You look into the mysteries of Hinduism and the mystical aspects of all the religions have their mystical aspects. They have their mystics and things like that, but they don't have oil. They don't have oil. They don't have the mysteries of the mysteries. What's mysteries of the mysteries? So mysteries are above the world. And mysteries of mysteries are not limited to being above the world. They're above secrets, but they're also in everything physically. It's infinite. Infinite means you can't put it in the heavens and you can't put it in the earth. You can't say it's not here, it's not there. That's the oil of the Torah. In other words, every detail of the world, even the most mundane detail, is connected to the highest of the essence of the Creator. That's the secret. That's the oil of the Torah. That essentially is what Chassidut is. Now let's connect it. What does Chanuka got to do with the oil of the Torah? At first glance, it's not understood. Chanuka is a holiday that comes from the rabbis, not like the holiday of Passover and Sukkot and Shavuos, etc. And it was in the second temple, Chanuka. And the Jewish people were in a very low situation. Today, once again, I'm going to tell you a story today. One second, George Walker. I don't want to forget the story. Okay. It was the time of the Second Temple. This was when the Greeks, the evil Greeks, were standing over the Jews. They controlled the Jewish people, and they wanted the Jewish people to forget the Torah, the godliness of the Torah. Lowest period in the history of Judaism. How could it possibly be that Chanuka is a holiday, the only holiday of all the other holidays that's connected with the oil of the Torah, the secrets of the Torah? Now, maybe we can put another interesting thing over here. The Rebbe points it out. You can see from the wording in one of the blessings that we made that God put the strong in the hands of the weak, and etc. But Rabbi's Rivena, one of the blessings that we make, the blessing that we make on in our prayers on Chanuka, that 99% of the Jews agreed with the Greeks. They agreed with the Greeks. And they never really woke up, all of them. They didn't really, all of the Jews didn't really wake up. That wasn't the main thing was is that sufficient number of Jews woke up that they could fight against the Greeks. In the beginning, there was only 13. They could fight 13 Jews. All the rest of the Jews were enamored with Greek success and Greek culture and Greek beauty and Greek fun and Greek art and Greek philosophy and the Greek, the Olympics and the this and finally Jews, they could instead of sitting around just learning the Torah and doing good things, they could go on and have big bacchanals and big parties. And so the Jews agreed with the Greeks. Good. And so, which is not the case on Purim. In the holiday of Purim, Haman wanted to kill all the Jews. He wanted to kill all the Jews, but all the Jews woke up. All of them woke up, and they all fought against. In Chanuka, it doesn't say that all the Jews woke up. In Chanuka, it was so how can it be that in Chanuka, which was in the time when the Greeks ruled over Jewish minds and hearts, that from that comes the only holiday in Judaism that touches on the secrets of the secrets? How can it be? So says the Rebbe, the Kudas Abir, the explanation is like this: Shahaseder de Hisgalus Torah, the order of how the Torah is revealed, and the Torah says was given to make peace in the world. The Torah was given to make peace in the world. Why is the Torah given to make peace in the world? Because the Torah is the truth. It's like, you ever see sometimes people argue. They argue about something, and someone comes with the facts. Up to now, that's the way it was. Now with the woke movement, they're not interested in facts. But up to now, it's been that if people argue and you bring facts, that pretty much stops the argument, right? How many home runs did Babe Ruth hit in 19 whatever it is? This I'm telling you, he hit 60. He hit, and it was 1923. It was 1920. You look it up in Google or something. Here it says, look, it's 63. That's it. You find the facts. It ends the arguments. Right? Ends the arguments. The same thing. The Torah. The Torah is the facts. The Torah is what's right and what's wrong, and that makes peace in the world. People know what God wants. The way that the Torah makes peace in the world is the way. The more the darkness is in the world, the more darkness is in the world, the more essence of the Torah is revealed. Torah. The Torah is here to fix up the world. So the more darkness is in the world, the more light the Torah provides. They irat olam, to shine up the world. Therefore, because of the great descent that the Greeks, the evil Greeks, ruled over the Jews. So in order that they're to maintain the world, there had to be hotzorech hosafa, there had to be an additional light of the Torah by means of revealing darga nailit yoter b'Torah, a higher level of the Torah, which is the oil of the Torah, the secrets of the Torah. Okay, now let's explain. Yudua, it is known that the Greeks, they were chachma de klipa. The Greeks were what's called wisdom of evil, selfishness. Klipa means selfishness. They were selfish wisdom. Chachmas chitzonios, external, what's called external wisdom. External, not getting at the real true source of anything. In those days, hayu philosophim, there were great philosophers, hamachishim b'nevuah, that they denied that there could be such a thing as prophecy. Shenit pashta as chachmas yavan, there was the Greek wisdom, which is the Greek philosophy, and they wanted to overpower the chachmas Kabbalah and of godliness. Okay, what Judaism believes in a thing which is called prophecy. What does prophecy mean? Prophecy doesn't mean prophecy doesn't mean like a person can tell the future. The Greeks had people like that. Tell the future. There was astrology. There was soothsayers, right? What is the Oracle of Delphi, whatever they called it. They have all these people that can tell the future, and the sorcerers and magicians and future tellers and crystal ball things and reading hand palm readers, things like that. Right? That existed from the beginning of time. A prophet is a person that brings messages of the Creator in the world to people, or in more exactly, brings messages of the Torah, the godliness of the Torah to the world. La'amin b'Hashem, to believe in God and His commandments, because this is above the wisdom, any wisdom which is understandable. So Judaism is based on the idea that you cannot understand God. That Judaism is based on the idea that you cannot understand the Torah. Of course, it's a commandment to understand the Torah, and it's a commandment to understand God. Shema Yisrael means understand. You have to listen. You have to understand. Shema means understand. It's a commandment to understand God. It's a commandment to understand the Torah. But you have to understand that it is impossible, essentially, to do so, because it comes from God, and you can't understand what God is. God is not a thing. God is not defined. God is not an idea. God is infinite, but He's above being infinite. Infinite is just a term which is relevant to finite. God is not finite. God is not infinite. God is above existence. And from that being above existence, God creates the world. And even more, God gives the Torah. That's the essence of Judaism, to know we are serving God that is totally incomprehensible and infinitely real. The Greeks couldn't stand that. The Greeks wanted to say, what is reality? It's me. And I can understand this, and I, in my mind, to show you how great I am, I can understand that, I can grasp. That's called klippa. And therefore, the Greeks defiled all of the oil in the temple. They didn't pour out the oil in the temple. They didn't put poison in the oil of the temple. They didn't, right? They didn't, whatever it is, put something smelly in the oil of the temple. They didn't exchange their oil for the, they just defiled the oil. How did they defile it? They opened the bottles. That's all. They just opened up they found all the bottles and they opened them up. They didn't even have to touch the oil. Oil represents the deep, infinite connection of every Jew to God above understanding, and they wanted to make it according to understanding. What's above your understanding, don't deal with. Chachma to Kedusha, they wanted to do away with the wisdom of holiness. They wanted to make us, the Jews, forget your Torah, God. We can say that when the wisdom of Greece, which is the wisdom, the Chachma of Klippa, the selfish wisdom, it came so great that the Jews would forget that the Torah is God's Torah. This is because of Yanika Shalaem Michachmas Torah. How did they have the power to do this? Because they also learned the Torah. And they nurtured from the Torah, they got power from the Torah to go against the Torah. We find that there, that's the story. It says that Talmud wanted to translate the Torah into 70 languages, and it was a terrible thing. It happened. This is one of the worst day in the history of Judaism. They translated it into 70 languages, it says, because he wanted the Torah to be fall in the level of philosophy. That the Torah is just this wonderful philosophical piece of literature. We find that there is something special in the word Yavan. It shows what they wanted to do. Yavan is Yud, Vav, Nun. See, there's Yud is a little point, and Vav is a line, and Nun comes even down lower. Even in books, Torah and the prophets, Lo hitiru sheyichtavu. It says that the books, this is a very interesting law in the Torah, like the Megillah and things like that. It says you can only write them in, the Torah has to be written in Hebrew, but it can also be written in Greek. We don't have that language that the Greeks had back then. Greek nowadays is very similar to Russian, or maybe Russian is similar to Greek. The letters are basically the same. So, but it's not the same letters as they had back then. Not the same letters as they had back then. Nevertheless, it is permissible. That's Rambam said. Nevertheless, it is permissible to write the books of the Torah in Greek. The only language that the Torah could be written in, translated, except for Hebrew, was Greek. Omer Kra, the Torah. Why? Because the Torah says, Yaft Elokim leyafet v'yishkan b'oalech Shem. It says that in Noah had three sons, right? Shem, Cham, v'Yafet. Cham did a bad thing to Noah, his father, so he cursed him. Shem was going to be eventually the Jewish people. That's anti-Semitism, anti-Shemiot, Shem. So they became the people that were good. Yavan, it says Yavan, that was Yafet. That was the son Yafet. And he gave a blessing to Yafet. And the blessing was Yaft Elokim leyafet, that God made beautiful Yafet, and he will dwell in the tents of Shem. Now, Shem were the Jews. They were the ones that got the Torah. And it says that Yafet was also beautiful, and he could dwell in the tents and the places of learning. What does it mean? Yafeto shel Yafet, the beauty of Yafet. This is the language of Greek. Yavan is Yafet. Lashono Yafet, the language is more beautiful. Mishel Kol B'nei Yafet. The beauty of Yafet is the aspect that it's in the tense of Shem, namely that you could translate the Torah into Greek. It says that the rabbis Budku and Matsu, they found that the Torah cannot be translated properly in any language except for Greek. Nishtanes, therefore God, it says, why? Because God changed the Greek from all the other languages, because Greek could be understood by the wise men of Israel, and they could translate the Torah properly, so you get the proper meaning of the Torah in Greek. In other words, there are words in Greek that mean pretty much the same thing as words in Hebrew, Lashon HaKodesh. Pirushu Torah, they explain the Torah in Greek, the Talmei Melech, the king, Ptolemy, the king. Shenit Parsamu Etzlom, that was advertised by them, and they made copies of it, etc., because Hebrew is something like their language, as though it was Hebrew. Ashurit is Hebrew. Okay, so now what happened? There was a king called Ptolemy, I guess Ptolemy, and he was a king, and he ordered that the Torah should be written in 70. That the Torah should be translated. I made a mistake. That the Torah should be translated into Greek. And just to make sure that the rabbis didn't play tricks on him, and that they translated it properly, so he took 70 rabbis that they knew how to translate the Torah, and put them in seven different rooms, 70 different rooms, provided them anything they wanted, 70 rooms, and to translate the Torah. And they all translated the Torah, and they made 10 different changes in the Torah. Okay, that's not the point over here. The point is that they did translate the Torah into Greek. And it says that day was worse for the Jews, like the day that the Jews made as bad for the Jews as the day when they made the golden calf. The opposite of the giving of the Torah. Okay, so what's going on over here? Greek is the language that the Torah can be translated accurately into. And nevertheless, when it was actually done, the Torah tells us that this was as bad for Judaism as the day when the golden calf was made. And so that doesn't make any sense. I mean, if it really is, the Torah can be translated into Greek, and Greek is an accurate language. The words in Greek have the same meaning as those in Hebrew. As an accurate translation, that you understood what the meaning of the Torah is from the words of Greek. So it's a good thing. It says when Ptolemy ordered that the Torah should be translated into Greek, which seems to be a good thing. It says that was the worst day in the history of Judaism, except for the day that they made the golden calf. Golden calf, that was bad. as bad as the translation of the Torah into Greek. Why? The explanation is because of the quality that the revelation of the Torah below in the language of the non-Jews, God even commanded Moses. When Moses went over, it says that before Moses sent the Jewish people over the Yam Suf, right? Moses left the Jewish people, right? So God told Moses, write the Torah in 70 languages and put it on a rock. It says put it on rocks. The 70 languages God said you should do. God said you should translate obviously one of those languages must have been Greek. So once again, when God said to do it, that was a good thing. But the problem is when King Ptolemy, when he ordered it that it should be done, so the translation came out the same. Why wasn't it good? Because it's the difference if God says to do it or Ptolemy Melech says to do it, even if the outcome is the same. When King Ptolemy said to do it, to translate it into Greek, this was a terrible day for the Jewish people, just like when they made the golden calf. Why? Because it was made not because of the commandment that Tzivoy Hashem, but because the King Ptolemy, he wanted to do it. Therefore, there was a place that you could worry that this would be used, and it was used, in a way that was improper, to the degree that it would be the opposite of the giving of the Torah. And we can even say that as a result of this, there came the decree of the Greeks later on to make the Jews forget God's Torah. The Torah Tcha. It's okay if the Jews learn the Torah, and they could be experts in the Torah, but it shouldn't be God's Torah. The Torah should be the wisdom of the Jewish people, the wisdom of Moses. That's okay. Moses was an inspired person. Moses was a genius person. And Moses was a godly person. But the Torah did not come from God. Moses didn't speak as a prophet. Moses spoke as an inspired individual. It was his words, the Torah. Moses was the most genius person in the world, the most inspired person in the world, but it was not God's Torah. Where'd you get that idea from? Because they translated the Torah into Greek. Here you see that in Greek, you can also understand the ideas of the Torah, just like the Torah. The Torah, the letters of the Torah, that's God's letters. And that just the letters themselves are holy, and Greek is not holy. But when God said to do it to Moses, to write it into 70 languages, all showed that all those languages could be used for holiness. They could be used for holiness. When Ptolemy Melech said to do it, it's coming to show exactly the opposite. That you could use the Torah could become mundane, not to elevate the languages, but to bring down the Torah. Descend. If you do it like it's known, should be in the Torah, that the Torah is, they thought that the Torah was a tremendous wisdom and a tremendous intellect. The Greeks agreed with this. That the Torah was part of the world, but it was part of the spiritual worlds. They agreed with that. Because the Greeks, they were tremendous wise people, and they were really very impressed. Nitpalu, the tremendous, infinite wisdom which was in the Torah and in the laws of the Torah. But what did the Greeks disagree with? Hitnagdu al zeshu Torah Hashem. They disagreed that it was the Torah of God. Why? Because God is creating us. So you want to say every single word in the Torah is being written by our Creator, that no human being is outside of these laws of the Torah, that they are being commanded by the Creator of the universe. That's too much. The Torah is part of the creation. It's a very high part of the creation, a spiritual part of the creation, but it's part of the creation. That's what the Greeks disagreed with. They agreed with the kedusha, the holiness of the Torah, the godliness of the Torah, that it's the wisdom of God, chachmato. Neged lachmo. Against this, the Greeks fought. Shenitzlu hatargum, that they used this translation of the Torah into Greek in order to show the great wisdom of the Torah. Now we can understand it, the tremendous philosophy of the Torah, in order to defile the holiness of the wisdom of the Torah. You couldn't see that it was the wisdom of God. This is basically the same thing as Spinoza did, right? The same thing as Spinoza. This is the God that was recognized by, the God like Einstein. There's a God that doesn't play dice with the world. In other words, there's some sort of a force. This is almost like the same thing as Hinduism. There is a God. It's some sort of a being, but it's a natural force. It's a force that's above all the other forces. It's a consciousness that's above all the other consciousness, but it's still a thing. It's still somehow or other mainly for me. That's what they wanted. The Greeks wanted to say, that the wisdom of the Torah is human wisdom, just like philosophy, but it's much greater. That's the idea, that they wanted to defile all of the oil in the Torah, because oil represents this part which is above understanding. And that's why the miracle of Chanuka was a miracle of pure oil. They found one bottle of oil which had been sealed by the high priest. Which was enough to light for one day, and it lit for 8 days. That was the miracle, and we're going to explain what the content of this miracle is. We'll discuss this, God willing, tomorrow.